So today I'm going to be showing you how I made this dart. The Gauntlet dart for Boba Fett is 5 millimeters on top, 7 millimeters in this middle section, and 31 millimeters long on this bottom section. The width here is 3 millimeters. The width here on the actual dart is about 1.2 millimeters. However, this is wood and I can't get it down to 1.2 millimeters, so I'm going to keep it at 2 millimeters just to show a little dip in. Now, if you're going to just make the Gauntlet darts, you don't actually have to make it this long. You could actually save a little bit of space by only doing it to here, since only a very small portion pops out of the dart. So, how do we do that? Well, I use the tools that I have in front of me. So, I have to measure. This razor blade is actually how I get the inner piece right here. So I slip that in 2 different spots and get it to sort of use that to carve it out. This is how I do a lot of the thicker carving. This is how I keep my homemade lathe on. This is the actual dart material itself. Various sanding papers. I use a 60 grit, a 500 grit, and a 1200 grit. And then my sweet and awesome homemade lathe, which is a cordless drill strapped into the vise, and then this bad boy used to keep the drill running. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead and start this up. So I'll chuck it, excuse me, a little tighten. I'll make sure to get nice and tight. Understand that it will dig quite a bit into that wood. To bring you over here so you can actually see. Let's see if I can get the light turned on. So now that we sort of understand where we're going with this, first I take a pen and my measuring device. So it needs to be a grand total of approximately 43 millimeters. It could be a little bit shorter. You could probably take up to like 10 millimeters off and not lose anything. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it out at 43 because I'm just going to make it the full-on length that it's supposed to be. So I mark it a little bit away from the edge of the chuck so I can have a little room to work. Mark here. Now there's a couple different ways you can do this. You could use a razor blade, you could do a lot of other stuff, but I've got my little handsaw over here, so I just chuck it. See how it out there quite a ways and it flips like that? With a much shorter still, it won't do that. And then I just take this and, that's alright, we're going to be cutting out quite a bit anyway. So, here we go. So now this whole entire length is going to have to be trimmed down to 3 millimeters. So again, not super worried about the saw sort of jumping. Last time I was able to sort of place it here and do that, and actually made it a much smoother cut. So again, going back on, I take my blade, I tilt it, and I angle it, and then I just set it on the bottom and I just cut in. That is the one downside of working with wood. I wasn't as careful as I usually am and went ahead and cut it right in half. So chuck that piece, put in the next one, go from there. That is, like I said, that is one bad thing about the wood. It definitely is not as strong, and I was not going as slow as I should have gone. That is probably because I'm on video and I didn't want to take all of you guys' time. So sorry about that. Marked here again. Okay. Here, I'll try to go a little slower this time so that way we don't have the issues. Okay. Man. I'm going to go a bit slower this time. This time I'm going quite a bit slower. Again, this is about 6 millimeters to begin with, so I have to actually take it in half to the main level. So again, just slowly working my way. If you want, even without turning it off, you can grab your calipers and check. Right now, I haven't taken very much off of it at all. I've still got about 2 more millimeters to go over the whole surface. Another option is to use sandpaper. Sandpaper does a fairly good job of taking off. I'm using my roughest sandpaper right now. I'm just working it back and forth across the whole layer here. And don't push too hard. The wood will splinter, break. Let's see how that one did at taking off the material. So I'm about 5 millimeters now, so I'm still going to have to take off another 2 millimeters. So, again, not pushing very hard. So now I've got it to about 3 millimeters. I'm taking my 500 grit sandpaper and I'm smoothing up the outer edge because I'm not really going to touch that very much more. So I'm just trying to get it that last little bit to the 3 millimeters. Alright, so you saw me take the razor, go ahead and run it down the list, or run it down the dowel here. Get it close to 3 millimeters, then use sandpaper to sort of take it the rest of the way. Here right now we've got it at about, I mean it's just a smidgen over the 3 millimeter here in the tag. You'll see we've got the 0 mark, 1, 2, 3, and you see the line right there at the edge. So now we have to take additional marks on the dart. So front part we have 5 millimeters. So what we do is we come out here 5 millimeters from the front and we put a mark. And again, there are vendors and everyone out there that can get you a 100% perfectly accurate Boba Fett dart. So if you want the 100% accurate, I strongly suggest you hit up one of those amazing makers that do this. For those of us that are building this in our garage and out of spare parts and stuff like that, I had this dowel laying around, so that's why I went ahead and did that. The next sort of valley section is 7 millimeters, so I marked 7 millimeters out. Go ahead and do that little mark here, measuring from the back of that other piece. Do that. Go ahead and give it a little spin, add the mark. Okay. Now what I'm going to try to do this time is use this razor blade. It's got a sort of cutout here to give a lead cut, if you will, into the different sections so I can know what not to go past whenever I'm trimming. also go ahead and add on my somewhat 45-degree tip. You know what, this is 2. It's 2 quarts, and so it's not giving me a nice smooth finish here. So I went ahead and moved to the 500 grit. Giving myself a nice tip there. So now I'm going to go ahead and add the 2 lines. So right there at the end. So I go back my piece here very carefully. And 1. And 2. Yeah. So I put them too close together, so it popped out the spot in between it, but I still think that looks good, so I'm going to leave it alone. Now I have to cut this other part out to 2 millimeters. So, very careful. So the back end's right at about 2 millimeters. The front's still at about 3.5. So alright, well now, got the dart pretty much managed. Got to do the one final check on the length. And let's get that done. Got to cut it out. Okay, so lock back in. Probably do, actually I need to rough that side up to get it smaller, and then I will cut it. And so see, they're not perfectly exact to each other, but they are very close. And again, this was my second dart attempt, and this was my third dart attempt. As you can see, as you do the process, you will refine your methods and make much more accurate looking tips. I might actually be able to get this into the chuck and bring this outer part down, which is just too slightly large of a tip. So yeah, there you go. Hope you enjoyed, and hope you found this useful. I know for me it was this was definitely one of the nice ones. I had all these parts on hand, and so I actually ended up spending no money out of pocket on these on this portion. So that's always a good thing whenever you're trying to do this on the cheap. Hope you enjoyed.